Hey, well, welcome to the Dream Labs, Dr. Contrast Live. I hope everybody's doing well and you had a good holiday. And situation for me, I'm very, very sorry about yesterday's inability to go by Streamwise here on in Twitch because I had a series of appointments I had to take care of. And out of that came a very interesting journey in terms of working with some individuals about a week ago. And this opportunity came my way. And I just thought it'd be kind of nice today to go back through some of these things and show you what I've been doing over the last few days since this conversation or this conversation with this corporation or this company has transpired. It's interesting how it all came about. It's not a case where this company, for example, is in disparity at all or lacking any conversation or concentration in the marketplace. They're doing extremely well. It's just that they've gone through a transition now where they want to go into a lot more of an updated program, convert their logo piece, for example, which is now very traditional. It's just a very simple elliptical form with a typeface in it, and not enough identity, I think, for the group that they're dealing with. And their business is expanding tremendously. A lot of corporate work, a lot of wrapping and painting and sculpting and different processing in the automobile world. So it came to me that a good friend of mine said, well, you ought to get in touch with this guy, see if we can help you, maybe help develop a logo for you. So what I've done today is gone through a series of sketches that you see here on screen. I'm not going to walk you through these guys, and maybe at the end here do a couple of variations on theme here. But I think the one thing I want to concentrate while we're going through this whole process is, again, looking at the content of what the business is, what their pursuit is, what they want to highlight, and how they want to really characterize themselves in this new facelift in the marketplace is going to be extremely critical. So it's always interesting how, for me anyhow, working with logos are extremely sensitive because you're dealing with people's personalities, with their corporate structure, with their reputation in the marketplace. It's a very sensitive thing, so you've got to be very careful back and forth about how we approach this thing. And for your information too, these sketches, we've been talking about certain approaches going back and forth, nothing really concrete yet. I'm just going through a search or a real wide swatch here of possibilities. So that's why I want to show you what I've developed here thus far. There's some variations on theme. For example, when you start with the whole process, I began with this page looking at breaking it down into abbreviating, for example, the P&C pickups plus cars. Working with the graphics in terms of letter forms are extremely difficult, especially when you've got two incompatible letters such as a P and a C, to make them combine or do something unique with them and still make it fit the automotive world or the content in which they're working within. So it started there, for example, just going through some very formal pieces, a little more script and being a little more literal, adding a little bit of flag graphics to it, going back in and adding like the PC, compacting a little bit more. In the first one we did here, just opening it all up. Then I switched gears to doing some little racing piece. I've got a little component in our industry. It's like a Zero racing system, and I think that's they're going to go part of that. I don't know if they're going to go full bore with that yet or not, but I think just injecting a couple of those little pieces in here that you see, this variation, that variation, and getting the T in place, and Zero racing and so forth here, and then back to PC again. A little bit more lucid in terms of getting some form in this guy to make it kind of click a little bit. And then also getting like a coupe variation or a vehicle in place, getting a contour line down, and then letting the graphics fall inside the actual form itself. Sometimes, for what it's worth, it gets a little bit touchy because if you push it too far, it gets a little bit more on the hokey side or very abstract or non-discernible. But I still think there's some merit about getting some of the contour or some of the, for lack of a better term, the very minimal line work, thick and thin, to kind of get it all pushed together. So this is the first page I did, just starting the process, and you'll see some progress as we go along here, hopefully, and we appreciate your input when you look through this to see what you think in terms of just providing some feedback back and forth about what likes and dislikes are. So there's page one. Let's put that off the side here just for a second. Into page two, a little more specific. Still trying to work with these letter forms, for example, the two initials, which is P and C. And again, trying a little more flair to it, being still pretty lucid and sketchy with the process here. And a little bit of a chevron piece going over the top of this P plus C. and also getting a little more checkered flag, a little more traditional again. Coming back to some variations on their racing program again, some of these processing, getting letter forms down to ZR, ZRL Racing and so forth. And it's really interesting how that combination got a little easier to work with because they're two very racy or very elaborate looking letter forms. The Z and R are kind of more compatible to work with as far as a letter form than the other was with the P and C. So again, some of the variations on theme here. So I went through that variation, looking at some little thumbnail sketches. Just these sketches very quickly, for example, not a lot of time spent in terms of being finished. I'm just looking for basic theme. As I go through this whole parade here of sketches, please keep in mind that these are strictly black and white studies. We'll probably add color as we go, maybe tighten some things down, and maybe they'll like a lucid look. Maybe they'll go back more to the sketchy piece, but I think it'd be kind of nice because it's less formal, it's a lot more lucid, it's a lot more, to me, an automotive flavor to it. It's very rapid or speed related, so that could be kind of interesting as well. So there was a second page we went through, second series of sketches. Then we'll spend a little bit of time again going back through the letter forms and just bit by bit stacking them up, putting a flag behind it and accenting the plus in the center. And then again a chevron through it and separating the P and the C. Script-like, a little bit of chevron or flag graphic in front of that, and again much more script-like. Then in trying this, which I thought was interesting, looking at maybe just a simple elevation or body form, again minimalist or thick and thin line, then adding the P and C in it. Now that seems to work pretty well, and I think I'm leaning toward, at this stage of the game at any rate, I was leaning toward maybe it's not the letter form that works. Maybe it's being much more vehicle related. For example, pickup in cars or that combination graphically would be a better way to go. Then I went back from that area, that aspect of it, going back into trying to steal some Bugattis or Bentley's bit with the wings and PC, and it just didn't have the same character to it. It seems like when you get the letter forms down, it just seemed to slow down the process a bit. It wasn't as dynamic as getting into something such as this. Then back to PC again with a chevron, thick and thin. This is kind of interesting. I think some cases, most of them have merit, but most of the time, from my point of view, I'm trying to think in terms of how he sees his a company moving in the future here and getting a little more growth with it. And I think it's going to be more growth related if he gets away from the actual title of the corporation and influences it with what he does, which is car related, much more of an image of a vehicle. So from that perspective, I just switched gears and went, no, let's try this. Let's go this route where we get into some really interesting things now. I think we turned a corner. You go through some exhaustible sketches of trying to make letter form work and so on. And some cases it'll click, some finessing might help, and I think the conversation with his staff will be helpful as well once we begin to see what's going on here. But I certainly slipped on another coat here in terms of putting on, maybe it's just contour, where you've got cars and pickups and contouring it here. And just go thick and thin line work and letting it kind of tell a story from that point of view. Certain variations on theme, A, and then into B, maybe less wheel, just again shape itself. And then again, a front 3/4 of cars, and pick up a little bit of timing system or an instrumentation piece in the background here. And then back into, again, this whole contour piece of foreground car, background pickup. Again, much more romantic in terms of being line related and less letter form related. Then I went to full illustration down here in a sense, 3/4 front, rear and front and rear, front and front of the actual machines. And again, another really interesting clasping of showing how to make it, how the variation and the scope of visualization will change. But again, you're still trying to get a message across in terms of what this whole process, what he does, and what his company does. He's extremely successful at it. A phenomenal system that he works with. He's really a talented guy, and his staff is very talented as well. So, and that was it. So we switched gears to this line form, and I just picked up on that same thing and kept moving through it, and went to a little bit larger format. Again, with thick and thin, a little concept sketch up on top here, thick and thin line work and the like. Let me get this out of the way just for a second here. And again, much more graphic in terms of, I'm not quite sure yet how to handle the line weights on this thing as we go through it from case to case. But I think it's interesting to see that, there's some thick and thin. Maybe it's wheel graphic, maybe this is all blacked out with a little bit more detail in it. It's a black and white work in there, a little bit of color added. And again, the front end graphic of the car just peeking out in front of that piece. piece. Then we're back into more traditional letter forms again, trying to see if we can find a combination that would work. And again, from my point of view, I just found it very, very interestingly intriguing, a little bit perplexing as well, that the P pickups plus cars had a little bit of a non-synonymous rhythm to it. It was difficult to work with. Again, back to PC with a little bit of wing structure on it. Back to the flag graphic again. Back to very simple forwards. I mean, it's more chevron-like or shield, heraldic shield, much more classical look. And again, those will be the decisions that his staff will have to make in terms of which way they want to go. There could be merit in this if you combine it in a certain way. Maybe it's a combination of putting a heraldic shield in the background of one of these combination of thick and thin line weights or minimum line weight studies. I'm not sure. So there's another approach at it here. So let's go to another sheet here, back to the histrionics. And again, now, back to that whole idea of just being elevation related and maybe 3/4 front, getting back to pickups down there. I'm not a big fan of this. I mean, I put that down. I thought, oh my goodness, the more realistic it gets, the more to me. Justin Brodsky, hey, hi, Rustin, how are you? Thank you for joining forces here. Where are you coming from here, Doctor? Whereabouts you located, Justin? Interesting. Thank you so much for joining us here. I think you've got some of the information going along here, but just developing a logo here. Hey, Missouri. Hey, very good. How are things out in Missouri? Just as hot as they are here in Columbus? Really bitter stuff. And then thank you so much, Justin, for joining forces and following me, and I appreciate your time here. I just really, to recap, this is a storyline I think is very, very critical in terms of just developing sketches for a very successful operation. But it was dated. The gentleman who runs the ship and the CEO definitely felt like, yeah, we've got a business card out there, but it's very generic. Let's kind of move it up a little bit in tempo. And there's a possibility, too, as well as getting into a logo development. Once this corporate piece is picked, if there's something in here that intrigues him from the mix we're putting together here, my proposal is going to go back in and maybe pitching this thing into some apparel, t-shirts, caps, everything else that goes along with that, then the poster graphic and illustration work. So what do you think thus far, Justin? Is making sense for you? These sketches are extremely rapid. I go through about maybe per page about maybe 10 minutes of exploration, just laying down some good rapid pencil sketches. And as I said in the very beginning, thank you very much. I appreciate your commentary there. And again, be very candid. I'm looking for some input as we go through the process here today with what you are doing and what I'm doing. So if you see something you like that kind of sparks your imagination, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to address it as we go down the line here. But I'm a firm believer, and I'm in the same boat here, but I think that when you deal with letter forms, it gets very, very difficult to work with. There's something, unless they're compatible or syncopatic, it's very interesting to see how it all begins to function. If they're not, then you're forcing the issue. And I think you notice some of the earlier sketches, I went back to that PCC or P plus C just did not really kind of jive in terms of getting into more of a graphic. And I think this is much more in line with what he's doing from moment to moment with the actual operation. So what do you do for a living, Justin? Are you a design guy? Just out of curiosity, if you don't mind me asking here, it's just kind of nice to have you on board here. And again, I cannot thank you enough for joining forces here today from beautiful downtown Missouri. Cool. So I think it's interesting that I'll go through these sketches, and for what it's worth as well, I've always said to the audience, every time I go on a stream and doing different design work, I like to do a lot of variations on theme. I just go through a lot of really quick studies in terms of, I like art, I wish I could draw art, however, I have not done it into just a customer service guy for now. Hey, very good. As long as there's an appreciation there, Justin, it might be kind of an interesting, fascinating hobby to pick up. I don't know if I've told you or not, just a real brief history. I came out of General Motors design staff for 15 years of my career, where I had in charge of a Chevrolet, Corvette, overseas operations, Cadillac, just a variety of experiences. And I decided to move along just for the benefit of just becoming more exploratory. And quite honestly, the situation at staff level was getting a little bit more overwhelming in terms of day-to-day operations. So I'm really, I've been in Columbus now for the last 20 plus years, doing a lot of consulting work, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you for tuning in here. And again, let's come back to the subject matter. This is not something I'm a real big fan of. The more realistic it gets from a logo piece, the combination of pickups and cars works, but it's too literal. I just don't think. Then I went back to these elevations again. I'm just getting a lot of spike in terms of now that combination could be kind of interesting. I'm getting a lot of flutter here, gang. Sorry about that. Electronically here, I hope we're okay as far as the lighting is concerned. But something like this one, front elevation, where you got the vehicle and the pickup. Now that could make an interesting comment here, statement. So I don't think it lives here. It's more in this element, that element. Hang on a minute. Just see if I can get this thing to. This thing is flickering. Like, man, let's see what happens here. If I can just tune it up a little more. How's that? Sorry about that, gang. And I think there's something more contemporary about this line, this elevation statement. Maybe it's just a simple form like that with the logo in place and the type being set inside of that. So there's another approach here. So let's kind of go down the line here. Now back to the same. I keep going back and forth with this challenge of trying to get these letter forms to work. And stated, difficult to do unless they're very sympathetic one to another or compatible. Not easy to do. So I do like the second one much better than the top left. Let's see, we're over here. The second one much better. Yeah, you're talking about this guy here, Justin? Or this one down below? I'm in your camp completely. I think the second one, yeah, this guy has a little more potential to work with. Again, as I stated earlier, I think you've hit it right on the money too, Justin. Appreciate the input. The more literal you get, the more, to me, and from my point of view, it's much more fatal. It doesn't have the same ring to it. You're trying to force something that should be corporate, should be a little bit more abstract, a little more intriguing, as opposed to being realistic. It's not a photograph; it's a logo. So I think in this camp works pretty well, and that gesture that you'll see later on as I begin to go through the story begins to really tell a story here. So let's go back here, next page. Be picked up on again. Back to the letter forms, and no matter how hard you try, with a lot of graphics around it and so forth, it just didn't have the same zip to it. Hard to describe. I'm not being critical of the letter forms themselves. It's just hard to work with them because they're such. If you break them up too abstractly, you can't read it. For example, this guy, some of the more direct approaches, for example, PPC, yeah, that works graphically and it tells a story. But my point is, in developing a logo, it should have an instant reference to its vehicle, or its product, or they sell irons, or it's cosmetics, or it's whatever it might be. It should have a story behind it to let you know, this is what I sell. This is, as much as it looks appealing, maybe, it doesn't have the same jump that some of the things we talked about earlier with the visual graphics. So once again, switching back to going into these kind of things, maybe it's more of this kind of gesture. Now that works a little bit where you put something behind it. Do we need it? I'm not sure. Maybe it's all script. And a little bit of an indication of both pickup and car below that is another way to look at it too. And I think something like this could be interesting when you just do it all in terms of, that could be something more of a promotional piece on a poster, but I don't think it's going to be something you want to put in a business card or a logo out there with his material involved in it. Now, it starts to get intriguing here, and I'll make a comment here that please don't take it out of context. Now it starts to turn the corner. I begin to see that, you know what, maybe this whole idea of getting these letter forms in place aren't quite the real McCoy to work with here. It's just kind of really difficult to deal with. And I don't want to insult this guy from the point of view of, gee, here's a letter form. I don't think you'll love it. It's not as avant-garde as you would like it to be. Let's put it that way. So to me, graphics, again, especially logo, it should be distinctive, it should be adventuresome, it should be very, very contemporary, and tell the story about what he does day to day in his offices. So I think now I'm leaning more to this kind of stuff. Now this starts to take on some interest here, where you've got the tune compatibility side by side, a little bit of a notation where the graphics display is going to be up to the individuals involved, obviously. But again, notice the gesture starts to change. If I were to look at this and I'm looking through the catalog for somebody to do some design work on my vehicle, I'm going to look at more of something like this as opposed to something like this. That doesn't tell me anything. This has an energy about it, I think. Not my sketches. Let me clarify this. Not my sketches that have an energy, but the story it's telling and the image it's telling is what's really beginning part to be compelling. I don't know, Justin, if you believe that or not, but I just how I feel about this whole thing. There's a way to connote certain professionalism without being so literal. And I think that's the thing that I'm looking at here. That yeah, it's a very, very functional cars and pickups. It's very straightforward, but at the same time, there's an impact about it that's, this is distinctive, this is unique. And I think that's what I want to develop on here as we go through this logo process with this individual. So based on that anthem, I started to turn the corner and really go to these guys. Then change gears again, thinking, I'm going to go back to this letter form after going through all that elaboration about, and maybe it's a combination of just doing trying to make a P and a C work. Now, coupe and sedan, very sedan related, for example. Maybe it's again just line weight studies, and this wasn't bad. It's another approach, another variation of the theme. Obviously, it's not as static, for example, as a letter form. I'm trying to make something out of it in terms of being vehicle related. Now, my question is it stretching the envelope so far that it just outside the believability factor? Is it going to be simpler? Does it have to be that elaborate? Like this could be interesting. P, C. It does, it's vehicle related. It has a letter form involved in it, but it doesn't have the same snap that a very simple minimal line weight study, both pickup and sedan or coupe, would have. This isn't bad either. Just a little bit more forceful. I'm trying to pick up that contour line again of getting these pieces to kind of read as a nice graphic statement. So there's another variation, change of pace in another direction, taken now back again into this. Going back into more of the, more of the traditional approach of getting into, maybe it's a simple elevation. And going back again, back again to this whole concept of just pure elevation studies and line weight changes and thicks and thins to get it to work here. And then adding some graphics, for example, this isn't bad. It's not a bad approach. As long as the line weights aren't not too realistic, I think we'll be okay. But it's getting into this and into more of a speed form here. Same with this guy. And again, a little more truck related here, or pickup related, not bad. A little bit of a chevron underneath it. Maybe that's all it takes, is being much more specific with one or the other. And again, elevation study, just being very, 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 very simplistic. And I think a lot of it, when I'm going through this whole generation, what I also want to really stress is that I'm also not, even though the sketches are being generated in black and white, just very quick pencil sketches, I'm also looking at the possibility of adding color. Where would the color go? How would you backdrop it? Where do the high contrast pieces go? And so on. So what do you think thus far, Justin? Is this making sense, following the thread line here? I think the whole idea is beginning to shift toward getting this minimal line weight study to kind of work here. I think that's the thing that I'm really looking forward to, is somehow getting a magic formula for this whole process to kind of sing a little bit. So let's kind of keep moving along here. Next generation, same process again, working with the whole idea of getting some minimalistic line work, and just a pickup and a little bit of a chevron underneath it, and maybe the logo in place. Much more simplistic now, but it's just a cab forward, a little bit of a ring link system to go to color, a little bit of speed line forms behind it to kind of go with it. Same with this guy, although I don't know about that P in the background. Maybe if I tried that again, that's why I tried this guy down here. It just seemed to enunciate a little bit clearer message in terms of being much more sport related or corporate or process related, as he does it day to day in his offices. So there it is there. So that's kind of interesting how that kind of flies here. Not bad. I think I'm still leaning toward going more the vehicle in an abstract form, vehicles in an abstract form, to get this thing to sing here for a little bit. So let's kind of move over here. Last sketch, again, getting a lot more flamboyant. This is now starting to take on some character, I think, in terms of being a little bit fresher or newer. Not that they're great, but again, it's that same concept again, coming back in and using thick and thin line, using one concept over the other, and looking at different ways of putting that graphic form together. So let me stop there for a moment to get your input here, Justin. What do you think of this family of set here? Any interest at all? Anything that kind of strikes the fancy? Is it getting closer to the image we're after? I don't know. It's just really, it's a good combination to have, and I really appreciate your time on board here to kind of give me a little bit of insight as to what likes and dislikes, because you're the guy that could eventually be the customer here. So let's kind of put that off to one side here. Any comment at all thus far, Justin? These particular ones don't jump out at me. Well, good. That's good to know. Unfortunately, not at all. So if we go back to that, which ones, for example, would you really feel like some of the earlier sketches there, Justin, are a little bit more? Is it still Do you still prefer the look of thick and thin line, but not this family? Is it more of a should we kind of take the approach of being much more vehicle related with it as opposed to letter form related? I mean, that really is going to be very helpful for me. So that's it. Let me go back through it. I didn't get these guys numbered at all. Let me go back through the lineup here and get your feedback on this. Let's go back. I'm not sure it was there. I'm not sure it was here. Let me stop here. Just give me a yay if I hit the page you're going to work on here, or the one that you like there, Justin. Just again, really cool to have you on board here. Not those. Those are back to letter forms again. I think the mixture of both would be nice. Some sort of vehicle plus maybe some letters. I do like the line work. Yeah, okay, very cool line work. So let's see if I can get it. If there's one here that's a combination that kind of clicks for you here, Justin, let me know. I think we're back to this guy. No, that was one page you kind of liked where it was this and this, correct? I'll just wait for you. Yeah, that's okay. Very good, very cool. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said. So maybe your comment about the vehicle plus maybe some letters. Maybe it's a combination of this plus some lettering in the background or symbol in the background, and putting something in place with it. So I think that was the last one you kind of made the comment on. I don't know if this was that part of it as well, one of these guys or not. There we go. Let's go back here to do this. I think that tells a pretty good story here. Then let me just kind of go back to this last piece here. So this one is abstract as it is, has got some interesting qualities to it, but I think it's, would you say, for example, Justin, that looking at this family of sketches, is there anything in here, for example, that if you took maybe that out of it and added a letter form or some sort of an indication of the business identity, would that kind of do the job for you? I think there's something about getting a lot weighty in terms of thicks and thins that would really be kind of cool to work with here. Interesting, super interesting. So there it is. Let me go back here. I do like the middle one, last page. This one, that's this guy right here. Yeah, I think that's the one. I think what I was thinking about when I did this sketch, what I thought was interesting about this one, as opposed to yay above and below, was it looks like it was growing out of that chevron of some sort. Now this could become a little bit more subdued, and then adding some weight in here, for example, or the combination of the actual the business name itself could be interesting. So there's a lot of jump in that. So let me just do this for just a second here, Justin. Let me get rid of these guys and put these out of the way for a second here. And I just thought, before I went on the air, I just went together, put a little thumbnail sketch together here. Again, the same process. So maybe this is kind of interesting when you take this guy and you go vehicle. Let me just kind of heavy up some of the line weights here. We begin to play this thick and thin again. Let's see what this does. Trying to keep it pretty minimal here. What I'm trying to do is establish just a simple pattern, some darks and lights about getting this thing to work. What do you think there, Justin? Is that making sense or not? Just another approach to this whole idea of coming back in and doing an interesting job and putting the graphics together, both vehicle and some letter forms to put together here. I'm just kind of staying this thing in here. Makes sense. Ah, good. My question as well, Justin, is this. Does that combination make sense? I mean, does it look like if we added some typeface back into here, also letter form along with that, does that combination, and this is a bit more contemporary, he has a pretty strong client base here in terms of what he's working with. But if we went ahead here and let's just do this. And kept the weights pretty much where we are there, and just enough mystery. And then with this thing, just kind of let that roll into the wheel here without tinting this in. This whole lower piece, for example, going to go high contrast black and get the shadow down. Just going to get this little quarter piece to work. I don't think I'm going to go any further with some of the wheels. Just to be that mysterious with it, it's much more of a high-end coupe and pickup process, but it has some snap to it. I just like the combination of the two. And it tells, again, it goes back to what we were saying initially, Justin. It tells that story about, hey, we work in vehicle design here. We work in a range of pickup trucks to all kinds of passenger cars, whether it's exotic or simple passenger fleets. It just has a lot more character to it. I think something like this maybe is to tell a story in terms of what we're working with here. So I think just keeping them that generic. Let me just go back and get this kind of rolling just a bit. A bit here. Put more contrast in this hood, in this front end graphic. And let that tell its story. I mean, there's something about that combination of thick and thin that really begins to tell. It really looks good, I think, in terms of telling the story. Now, I don't know if it's the right image or not, or the right combination of thick and thin line, but it has that adventuresome, bold, this is what we do day-to-day approach to it from a business point of view. I do think less detail and more line work makes. Yeah, I do too. I think the more mysterious it becomes, Justin, the better it is. I think there's no doubt about that. I think that's a strong point to work with here. Let's get that fender line in place. Fender line in place, a little more weight into it. And keeping it that minimal, I think, along with a combination of whether... Now, part of the story is going to be when these sketches are looked upon and reviewed, he might come along and say, well, I like the graphics being very bold and through here. And also, I might change the page. Maybe there's some sort of a forum back in there we put together. Now, that will be a good conversation to have in terms of putting it together here. So there's one we can kind of work with there. Let's do this. So let's do this. There's another sketch. Let's try one more little combination here to work with here. Let's see what happens when we do this. What happens when we come back in and become extremely sketch related. Let's do this. Let's switch gears here for a moment. Let's get out of that here. There we are. Get some new juice. There we go. What do you think, Justin? That makes sense? Hey, Linear, how's everything? Justin, Roger, think less detail. Working, so I can't respond much, but glad to see your ad. Yeah, very good to see you too, Linear. Very cool. All right, Justin, what do you think of that? Has that got some character to it? I mean, very minimalistic line. Just kind of implies certain things, and hopefully that's going to start to fashion some things here. Let's do this. Turn it upside down here for a moment. And there we go. That might be kind of interesting. Let's see what happens here. We kind of get rid of some of the line ones in between here and just let that thing float. What do you think, Justin? Pretty minimalistic line there in terms of putting it all together. So it's very simple. It's a little more organic looking, and that can be kind of nice as a lone statement. Now maybe we put something behind it, like for example, maybe this comes in and does the following here. And a little chevron behind it or something of that nature. I don't know if that's that kind of breaks the ice or not. I don't know if that's just going to do the job. It might be a simple case of just putting something behind it there, or else leaving it as is. Did that help or hinder it there, Justin, in your opinion? Just really want to know, just to give me an idea. Personally, that kind of, yeah, me too. No offense at all. It's just something that maybe it just needs to be that simple here, Justin. Let's do this. Let's do this, get rid of this, and it's just as elegant as that. Now again, your point's well taken. Now maybe when that's all said and done, Justin, that form comes out of the blue. There it is, and then out of that he puts his title page or the name of his company on top of that guy. So that can be kind of neat. Let's do this. There's another approach. What do you think there, guys? I can already say the top is still. Yep, very good. That really is helpful. Believe me, very helpful. You don't do this stuff. It's extremely difficult to do in terms of having one look at it and one approach to it. For example, just really very unique in terms of how we see certain things, how the program comes together. Lenny, if you're still there, thank you so much for joining us here. And Justin, I really appreciate your time here in terms of putting together the format with me. So you're still a fan of this upper piece, is that correct? Yeah, I think there's something about that tells a story. I think much more clearly. I think there's a lot of concept sketches generated here in terms of from start to finish. But I think the whole idea is to get something down that's minimal, tells a story. Maybe it's a combination of this. I still go back to this one sketch in there. Let me go back here just for a second here, guys. There's one sketch here I think that does some justice to this whole pickups and combinations like that might be helpful. Not so much that. Not so much that. No, there's a couple. There's one here I think that had a combination of a pickup and a coupe in one place. Too literal, but at least, yeah, something like that. It's not quite the same approach here, but let's just do this for a second here. That combination of things, if I can get these lines up here, if I can get this guy there, let's get this guy over here, and this guy down here, if they all work together here. Somewhere in the realm here, let me just kind of drop this in just a bit. Does that make sense? If we can see those guys. Somewhere in the realm here of getting into an area such as this look, or some of this combination of elevation and just line weight changes, become much more striking. This is a lot more character to it, I think, just being much more minimalistic. And then again, a combination of this and this, pickup plus just sneaking in an automobile off the one side might be a good approach. I don't think it really does. These letter forms just do not, as far as I'm concerned, resonate at all. I think it's going to be more in the realm of being much more vehicular related, and also this guy, as you just pointed out as well, Justin, it really makes a huge difference. So I think that's the mix we're after at this stage of the game here. We're just going to put those off to one side for a moment and bring this guy back into play here. And again, this has been a cross section of just telling a story about how to develop a logo, what to look at when you're developing a logo. It's very sensitive. And again, I'll recap it all by saying this. I think, there's the one here too. This one, just for what it's worth here, Justin, since if you're still on board, definitely a negative on the letter forms. Yeah, I agree. Let me just ask you this, Justin, in closing here. What about that combination here as a combination of putting both together? Is something in that family worth the effort and selling through, or to just, again, over-bizify the whole process? There's something about having the combination of both pickups and cars in the same image, but again, handle the right way. Could be a very interesting approach. So what do you think? Yeah, simplify the combination, the writing element works. I think that's great input, Justin. Much appreciated, because again, I'm out here just kind of soldiering the pencil and just kind of spitting in the wind and hoping that all begins to stick a little bit. But I think the input from individuals like yourself who are tuning in and having a conversation back and forth about likes and dislikes, to me, is extremely important. I'm not one to say, oh, gee, what do you think? My premise on Twitch is, what do you think? Because I think we're working with a client base here. You're the individuals that go out there and look at this stuff from day to day from a different point of view. And I think that's a great thing about having this program. I receive a lot of information from people like yourself, Justin, and others tuning in. You're doing a nice job of saying, hey, this is good, try this or try that. And I think that's all part of the communication system we're working with here to kind of get a handle on what we're after. So great input, Justin. I really appreciate what you've done here today. And I can't thank you enough for joining me too. And believe me, if I can make this comment too, hopefully without being offensive, please pass along the word to your friends. I'm on the air Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I missed yesterday because of a series of appointments. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I try try to shoot for the same time every day at 2 o'clock on Twitch. So please pass the word along. And furthermore, tomorrow I might have some more information on this logo development piece, and I'll carry this on. I'll be same time tomorrow. But if not, I'll be doing some conceptual spaceship design work, maybe looking at some sketches for some future thing and attack vehicles. So there's a whole variety of things. I might be doing a series of commissioned pickup pieces or automobile design. I change all the time in terms of content is concerned. I just thought today would be a good day, since I covered a lot of ground in this logo study, to kind of get some input from the audience, and I just really think it's great. It's really interesting. So again, cannot thank you enough, Justin, for joining forces. Hope you have a great day, and for what it's worth too, please feel free to drop. I wish I could throw some of those sketches together like well, it's a matter of old age here, Justin. I've been at this thing for a long time. I've been in the design world for about business for about 40 some odd years. Been very fortunate to do some really cool things, and I won't take the time to explain that. But take a moment, please go to my website at drcontrast.com, and you'll see some of the work there. For example, on my website, you can. I'm on Twitch, obviously. YouTube will be there, and my Instagram account is on there as well, Justin. So take a look at it and drop me a note and see what you think. And hope you join me tomorrow. We can chat some more about this. And if you have an interest in drawing, I have a digital drawing program for beginners, for example. It's an entry-level piece, not to insult anybody, but just a simple set of learning systems, 9 lessons. It's called Dr. Contrast and the Dream Labs, and can be reached at drcontrast.com. So please take a look at that and see what you think, Justin. And also, if you have anything you want me to work on, or things you'd like to see done, by all means, let me know. For example, just drop me a note at my email address at jim@drcontrast.com, all lowercase. It'd be great to hear from you. And again, so nice to have you on board. Thanks for sticking it out throughout the course of the last hour. Really been very, very helpful. And I'm sure that we'll get a chance to see you again on day to day. And again, my schedule is, I was going to go, in the past, I was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday at 2, Wednesday at 4, and I'm kind of switching gears here and keeping it all pretty consistent. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 2 o'clock, over about an hour and a half, and cover different variety of subject matters. So sometimes you'll see this, sometimes you'll see full color stuff. And again, I think you'd get I would really appreciate it if you took the moment to go to my website at drcontrast.com, where you'll see Instagram work, my YouTube stuff. I'm on YouTube as well, Twitch, and Instagram. So again, Justin, thanks so much. And Linnea, good to have you on board. I know you're in a meeting, but thanks so much for tuning in here. And I hope all of you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We'll kind of either pick this story up or switch content and go to a different direction altogether. So thank you so much, gang, and all the very best, Justin. Cheers to you as well. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow at 2. And I will sign off with this, because I think it's always very, very important to it's the most important part of the stream as far as I'm concerned. Never forget to remember to dare to be great, because you are. Thanks very much, gang. All the very best, and have a great day. See you tomorrow. Thank you.